Why would China issue a diplomatic protest note to Malaysia? Not too long ago, the Prime Minister visited China. He even referred to China as a true friend. So what's going on? How the note came to the press is being investigated. And that is not the focus of my talk today. I'm going to focus on how Malaysia should respond to this diplomatic protest note by China. So let us dive in. It was reported that China had issued a diplomatic protest note through the Malaysian embassy in Beijing. The reason? Malaysia was exploring for oil and gas at the Luconia Shoals, which is about 100 kilometers off the coast of Sarawak. But first, let us find out a little bit more about this Luconia Shoals. What is it and where is it? A shoal, for your information, is a geographical feature like a sandbank, which is almost always or partially submerged below the water level. Now, the Luconia Shoals is about 100 kilometers off the coast of Sarawak, and therefore it is well within the exclusive economic zone of Malaysia. Why is that so? Because the United Nations Law of the Sea grants that every state that has an ocean front has an exclusive economic right of 200 kilometers off its coast. And since this Luconia Shoals is only about 100 kilometers off the coast of Sarawak, it is well within the EEZ or exclusive economic zone of Malaysia. In the first place, China should not have protested against Malaysia because it is well within the EEZ, which is recognized by the UN Law of the Sea or UNCLOS. But of course, China does not play by the rules, although it is a signatory to the same law of the sea. Instead, China claims almost the whole of the South China Sea with its 9-dash map. Now, what is this 9-dash map? This 9-dash map is actually some old navigation maps upon which Chinese cartographers have arbitrarily drawn 9 dashes claiming the South China Sea as its own territorial waters. So when the UN Law of the Sea or UNCLOS was adopted by the UN, China should have dropped its 9-dash map. Instead, it kept it. So far, but the other claimant states of ASEAN, namely Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines and Vietnam, also claim parts of the South China Sea, but based on their exclusive economic zones. So in reality, China's claims in the South China Sea does not have any legal basis. And this was confirmed in 2016 by the Court of Arbitration, where the Philippines brought China to court to challenge its 9-dash map. And the court ruled that China's claims based on the 9-dash map does not have any legal basis. So why did China issue such a protest note? At first glance, it is puzzling because the relationship between Malaysia and China is actually very positive. But trying to understand the rationale for a country's behavior is actually part of foreign policy analysis. And when we conduct foreign policy analysis, we try to look at several variables. We look at the domestic considerations of the country. We try to look at the motivations of the leaders, perhaps. We also try to look at the external circumstances. By putting all this together, we would be able to come up with a reasonable explanation why, in this case, China would have taken such an action. But I'm not going to bore you with this kind of approach. One thing, however, is for certain. South China Sea is a core vital interest for China. And therefore, this presents a sovereignty challenge for Malaysia. So what should Malaysia do? The first thing that Malaysia should do is to issue a rebuttal to this protest note by China, through diplomatic channels, of course. I'm sure this has already been done, but I also have several suggestions for the Malaysian government. First, I think the cabinet members should stop commenting on this matter in the press. This is very important because commenting on the press is bound to lead to misinterpretation and misrepresentation of the facts. Let this matter be handled by the Foreign Ministry or Wisma Putra. This is a matter for diplomacy. Let the diplomats communicate. Secondly, I think the Prime Minister and Malaysia should use the ASEAN chairmanship in 2025 to push the reset button on the South China Sea issue. It is very important now for Malaysia to take the leadership. I think it's important for the ASEAN claimant states and the rest of ASEAN to come together to push for this code of conduct in all seriousness. It is important for ASEAN to show support for each other and to remain in solidarity over this matter. Third, Malaysia must continue to cooperate with other countries on this issue of the South China Sea. Malaysia's position should be that it is not going to take sides with anybody. It is friendly to every country. It is prepared to work with all countries. So, what's next? We must bear in mind that the South China Sea is a hotspot for US-China rivalry. The South China Sea is a vital global maritime trade route, and therefore this is an attractive spot for such a rivalry to take place. Therefore, all countries, including Malaysia, must be prepared to deal with the accompanying geopolitical risk. In the world of international relations, there is no such thing as true friend or best friends or anything like that. It is a cold, calculated world. Every country looks out for its best or own interests. Friendship matters insofar as their interests are also served by that relationship. That is something that countries will have to keep in mind. So, looking forward, well, the future is treacherous as I can see, and therefore I think it is more important than ever that countries rely on the tried and tested method of diplomacy to make sure that their own national interests are best served. So, what do you think? I would love to hear your comments. If you liked this video, please hit the share, like and subscribe button.